What's up, everybody? This is Final Fantasy Fan signing on with another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Super Nintendo Entertainment System released in 1991. Believe it or not, this is my #1 most loved console of all time. I mean, how can you blame me? This has awesome games like Super Metroid and Mario World 2 and many others. I'll give you some examples later. In 91, people were busy playing their Genesis, and by 89, the Nintendo Entertainment System was huge, featuring the games like Mario 3, Super Mario Brothers, the regular, Legend of Zelda 2, Metroid, and many games. But then the Super Nintendo took those NES games and multiplied them in their awesomeness. Metroid became Super Metroid, Mario Brothers 3 became Mario World, and you get the point. Super Nintendo had great games like Donkey Kong Country 3, Super Castlevania 4, Castlevania Dracula X, Super Mario World, Ninja Turtles 4, and Zelda Link to the Past. But for games like Donkey Kong Country 3 and Dracula X, like later releases, Dracula X came out in, hang on a second. Dracula X came out in 95, and Donkey Kong Country 3 came out in 96. And Super Nintendo pretty much failed in 97. By then, people have moved on to the Nintendo 64, which I have up there, and looked on to the third dimension of gaming. Metroid didn't really get a third dimension feel until the GameCube got released. But games like Mario and Zelda became Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and etc. Donkey Kong came Donkey Kong 64 and blah 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 blah, etc. I'm talking too much. Let's just get to the Super Nintendo. Now, back in 91, people were too busy with their Genesis because, well, Genesis was 16-bit and NES was only 8 until 2 years after the Genesis was released in 89. Came along the Super NES, SNES, or Super Nintendo Entertainment System, however you want to pronounce it. It's a masterpiece. For one thing, it actually is a cartridge system, as you guys must have guessed. It has a little door, like this, just like the Sega Genesis. All I have to do is pop in a cartridge like this, turn on the power, and then if this was plugged in, it would have had a red LED light. And that's what it would look like. It has a reset switch, and then more importantly, the eject button, which bounces the game up in the air. You can take it out without even using much force. It wasn't really, the cartridges weren't really hard to take out on the Genesis, but for the NES, I actually had to pull the cartridges when they were inside the box just to get them out. I mean, if you want to play Super Mario World and you're done, I mean, you would have to do this. But you don't have to do that, because when you're playing Super Mario World, push the eject button and then just take it out without even trying. That, I think, is one of the best features about this. But with all video game systems, it has one flaw, maybe 2, 3, whatever. It comes with crappy games, such as Home Alone, Spider-Man and X-Men. It's all about that rainbow of death. And Madden 97, oh god. Now, there were more crappy games, or more good games. These aren't all the Super Nintendo games that I have. I will do a Super Nintendo collection video later in the future, and I'm telling you all about the games, but that's for a separate review. Back in 91, when you got the Super Nintendo, you got a controller that looked like this. I'll get to a separate review of this controller in another video. But that's what it would look like. The controller port looks like this. And as you can see, it's pretty big. Kind of reminds me of the PlayStation 2 port or the PS1. Just plug it in like that. You actually have to push down on both sides just to get it in. And there you go. It has 2 ports. And then you could, with games such as Ninja Turtles 4, you could play together and then kick butt. So basically that's all I have to say about the Super Nintendo. If you guys are old video game collectors and you don't have a Super Nintendo, what are you doing on your lazy butts? Go out and buy one. Jeez, I mean, if you don't have a Super Nintendo, then your collection isn't complete. And you need great games for this. I don't have Super Metroid or any games like that, but, you know, the system is worth buying. Even if you have to pay $60 for it, I'd buy it. Yeah, $60 sitting right there, mint condition. Guess what? Buy it. Because it's worth it. This is Final Fantasy Fan, signing out.